slide. Yeah, who is it? Who was it? Who did it? Who done it? Who trapping? Who snitching? Who dug it? Who capping? Who beastin'? Who bugging? Who is it? Who was it? Who did it? Who done it? You can find that on the Corner Run podcast. 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 Who is it? Who was it? Who did it? Who done it? Who trapping? Who snitching? Who dug it? Who capping? Who beastin'? Who bugging? Who is it? Who was it? Who did it? Who done it? You can find that on the Corner Run podcast, nigga. 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 Let's go.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Ron Rico Slaps, and this is the first episode of my Crime and Rhyme podcast. First episode. Oldies but goodies, you feel me? I said oldies but goodies. It's like 4 in the morning, don't even trip off of me. My vocals a little rusty, but we gonna get to it. My first story now is a very interesting story, very classic story, very great story. David Ruffin of the Temptations. You heard me? David Ruffin of the Temptations. Now let's jump into this. David Ruffin, born January 18, 1941, passed away June 1st, 1991 in Philadelphia. David Ruffin was once the lead singer of a very popular group, the oldies group, Temptations, known for hits such as My Girl, Just My Imagination, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, and more. I'm a hella big fan of the Temptations. Hell, I'm a fan of most of the people I'm going to talk about on this show. Speaking of show, how it came about, you know, I was faded. Thought to myself, damn, there's hella crime attached to the music industry. All type of shit. All small crimes, conspiracies, murders, other shit. So take a journey with your boy, Ron Rico Slaps, as I tap into 2 of America's most greatest pastimes, crime and rhyme. Yeah, dig. You feel me? A little bit about myself. My name is Ron Rico Slaps. I'm from Oakland, California. I'm a producer, musician, father, all of that. Now, podcaster. That's why crime and rhyme is special to me. You may have never heard of me. Of course you haven't, but you will. Don't worry about it. I'm in your face, hitting them with the grades. See what I'm talking about. Now, you might not care about a lot of shit. But in my journey, I've been trying to figure out why crime is a big part of how you gotta be successful in the music industry. Whether it's getting murdered, being murdered, murdering somebody, or some petty shit. If it bleeds, it leads. If you got it, if you got a criminal record, then you get a head record. Why? Shit. If that's the case, never mind. Moving on. Don't even worry about it. Alright, so David Ruffin made it to my podcast because he's one of the greatest to ever do it. You understand me? He used to work with Marvin Gaye, the Temptations, just a Motown legend, just all around, just a G, man, vocals. Now there's a movie that depicts certain things, but what I'm making into this segment of Crime and Rhyme by David Ruffin is his untimely death and why. When you watch the movie, it may or may not look like a crime to you, but doing my research, I found out certain things. So check it. So David Ruffin, you know, started with the Temptations. You know, first he was solo. His big brother sang with Motown, things like that. He had a contract with Motown. You know, he messed with Marvin Gaye. Like, you know, songwriter-wise, I don't know about that other shit, but anywho. So, yeah, you know, vocal range, crazy, talent, crazy. Got with the Temptations, you know, if you watch the movie, you'll see a bunch of stuff, you know, their struggles, their ups, their downs. What I'm getting into is something that could have possibly led up to his death or was involved in his death. So we're going to get into it. So, you know, throughout the rise of his career, after making songs like My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, things like that, David, you know, was getting money like the rest of the group, but he started partying, getting into drugs, you know, coke, crack, whatever it is, you know, things like that, drinking, and David ended up, like doing things that the group didn't appreciate. So, missing shows, being late, ego, things like that. David got to. Oh, excuse me. Just don't worry, I'm about to get to the interesting part. So, David being on the road, not showing up, things like that, getting into party situations, women, things like that. There was times where he would not show up, or his ego would get in the way. I wasn't there personally. I say watch the movie. It's 2 parts. There's one where it's just like 1 hour, 2 hour film, and then there's like a 4 hour one that's like broken into 4 segments. You could probably watch it on Tubi or Pluto, one of these free apps that you can get on your Roku TV. I'll drop that link or information in the YouTube and the Patreon, where you can find this podcast, YouTube, Patreon, and other platforms soon to come. So anyways, so David Ruffin basically, after getting kicked out of the group, he tried getting back into the group, but he kept continuing to be in the drugs, things like that. Now his journey took him on a solo path. The whole group actually kind of went through a divide thing, stuff like that. And after a reunion tour or two, getting back on after falling off like really, really bad, like heavy in the drugs, like rehab status, sometimes it happens to the best of us, we fall victim to our vices, things like that. So, crack was his drug of choice. Now, leading up to the crime, this is where I'm gonna get to, so I'm gonna fast forward, because I'm pretty sure you're gonna go watch this movie about this great, talented man that these songs about. Now, this is where crime and rhyme comes into play. So, David Ruffin was passed away January 1st, 1991, and he was tossed out in front of a hospital in Philadelphia, out of a moving car, just like we ride and got a dead body in a car, throw it out. Now, how my research found it, because from what the movie was shown, is basically nobody knows what happened to him, because whether it was an overdose or foul play, things like that, I'm thinking it's foul play with a drug overdose. So the movie depicts, limo driving hella fast, riding, tossing his body out, he rolls, dips off. They leave it at that, nothing. They leave it at that. So all the years that I've seen this movie, I always thought it was just an overdose, and it was just like, hey, I'm high, I ain't trying to show up with a dead body high, so I'm just gonna toss him out the limo. But my research found was this. So on June 1st, David Ruffin just coming fresh off a 4-month tour, and he had a large sum of money on him. Now, he was partying at a drug house, crack house. That's what people do, So David's wife wasn't surprised that this happened to him, but this is kind of where, to me, the crime comes in. It's because in the movie, like I said, they just show him getting thrown out of a car. So David was partying with a friend where he ended up splitting 10 vials of crack. Now, I'm from Oakland. Shit, whether you split it or you doing it, crack is crack, nigga. Crack is a lot. You feel me to me? So he split 10 bottles of crack with his homie, and I guess he it was his time. So the story goes, he split these 10 bottles of crack. He ends up overdosing at this drug house. Now, where this shit gets a little iffy for me is, he ODs, there's no word if somebody tried to revive him or if everybody was just so high they just couldn't tell he was ODing, or if he went off to another part of the house and OD'd and then they found him later. Like the time, that is very unclear. But what I do know is when they first found him, nobody ever contacted the police, and nobody really ever took him into the hospital or made sure he was breathing the right way. It was just dump him out. Now, where I'm figuring the crime comes from is that David, this is what they said, that David had a belt, a money belt, and it had $40,000 in it because he just got off tour. So he was at a dope house with a belt with $40,000 on it, and I don't know if maybe on a certain tip he was like, hey, I got dough, or people just knew he had dough from times before. Maybe this is one of his spots. I have no clue, but taking that much, you're not gonna smoke that much dope. I'm pretty sure. You don't need that much on you. But again, fresh off tour, probably want to go party, let loose. He had this money on him now. Now, where the crime around comes from is this belt, or the money from the belt, was gone. I'm pretty sure the money and the belt was gone when he was tossed out at the hospital. So where the crime around comes from is like this. Okay, so he ODs. He has this money on him. People know he has this money on him because he was paid from tour. Now, he has this money on him. He ODs. He is thrown out of the hospital. So it's kind of look like, somebody will find out if he had this dough on him, or somebody, if we turn him in, they'll be asking so what? And he died and he was just broke, he ain't had no money on him. And then you turn him in, and people gonna start looking at you iffy. Maybe a story's not gonna be straight, things like that. So the autopsy and the reports from the hospital, when he was tossed out of the hospital, he was just pronounced John Doe for a week. So nobody even knew that he was gone. Everybody just thought it was David being David. He's just out there. And then eventually, he was identified. And this is kind of where some of the story, it's tiny investigated, not all the way, but just a little bit of his friend letting him know oh yes, but 10 bottles of crack with him, and basically they took him to the hospital. There was rumors that somebody actually carried him into the hospital and then left. That was not it. He was tossed out. He had this money bill on him, and I believe personally, yes, that he OD'd, and somebody was pocket watching, and they took the belt, and they was like, hey y'all, this the dope spot, let's get this nigga out of here, and threw him away in front of the hospital. So yeah, so with that being said, that's the crime and rhyme for David Ruffin of the Temptations. I suggest you go watch that movie on Tubi or Pluto, The Temptations, the movie, and you're gonna see a lot of different other stuff happening in that movie. But you're gonna see a lot of great talent and things about this movie and about the group. And I'm pretty sure you're gonna start listening to it again. But rest in peace to David Ruffin, legend. And yeah. Let's move on to the next story. The next story is of Ben J. Ben J. That name don't sound familiar to you. It's about to get real familiar to you right now. So that dance that all y'all that people be doing on TikTok right now, the jerk, came from this group, the New Boys. Ben J was one of the founders of the New Boys. Let me just jump right into it, man. So, there's two members of the group. Ben J was one of them. And, they made the dance song Jerk. That's what everybody's bringing back, or was bringing back not too long ago. But his crime story goes like this. Now, he's still alive. The group had went through some things, fallout. You could watch the interview on YouTube. You just look up Ben the New Boys, and you'll see a full YouTube interview. I'm gonna get into the crime story. So, they group went through a breakout. They tried to reunite, things like that. Didn't work out. Ben J ended up, still making music and moving out to Vegas. He was doing this thing allegedly, maybe he could have been trapping tree. I'm not here for all those details, but he was at his apartment in Vegas, and he was shooting a music video earlier in the day. Some people, came up to him as fans, things like that. And later on, those people wanted to come by, maybe the cops would trio him allegedly. And later on that night, he get a call, and somebody's like, "Oh yeah, like, can I get another A from Blue?" And he's like, "Yeah, come through." And the story goes, like, in his mind, like, he's kind of like, "Oh, okay, like, it's nighttime, like, why these guys trying to come through so late, so different times, whatever." And basically what he does is he's like, alright, so he's gonna, tell him to come through or whatever. And he has this gun, and he's like trying to figure out what hand he's gonna like put it in, like, I'm gonna hand the weed off with this hand, I'm gonna have that gun in this hand. And he's kind of like looking in the mirror, and he's like, he's high, he's drunk. Some people get into this thing where they like try to pump themselves up to try to like go handle some dangerous business in the dark. But that's, a lot of people, you ain't supposed to even do business in the dark. After a certain time, you're supposed to close up shop. You feel me? But other than that, so what ends up happening is, I don't know if he gets a call. No, it was a knock at the door. Like, he's up in the back room. His sister is in another room in this apartment. He's in the back room. He hears a knock. I think it's like a little tiny knock or something like that. He hears he goes to the door, like, and then right when he gets to the door, he noticed that it was unlocked. And in his mind, he's like, I don't know if it caught him or if he realized that it was unlocked, but he got close to the door and the nigga just bust through and like put the gun to his face or whatever. And dude, since he was so close, he didn't realize that he had a gun in his hand, and pow, the gun went off, hit dude in the chest. Dude, he said dude was a big ass dude, like 6 something, big, fell to the ground, boom. And out of like reaction or nervousness or something, shot him again, like, I don't know, make sure he didn't get up or whatever. One more shot, and he's like, panicking in the house, things like that. So he's panicking, it's like looking around the house, then he ends up booking it outside, and the guy had backup. It was like one guy outside. I guess the guy seen him when he was like coming out of the apartment. I guess the dude was coming to check on his partner that just got shot, but he didn't know. Maybe he heard the shots from outside. Ben J seen him, like, he could have shot him, but he was like mentally he's like, nah, I'm just getting out of here. He didn't intentionally shoot the person. The person was trying to rob him. That's the crime. Ben J is a rapper. That's the rhyme. Now he's running down the stairs. He sees the guy. The guy sees him. Ben J bucks it. Goes out to the edge of the apartment, hops the fence, calls his homie. His homie's like right around the corner somehow. And while he's talking to his homie, he realized he left his sister in the apartment. He's like, oh shit, like, I gotta go back, my sister. So he books it back to the apartment or whatever. His sister's in the room. Y'all can hear more details about that part. He gets his sister out the house, his homie pull up or whatever. The dude is still there, face down on the ground. Going in the apartment, he gets his sister out. They ride around for a little bit. They trying to figure out like what to do. I don't know if he called his mom or his manager or somebody, but they was like, you gotta call the cops. He called the cops. The Las Vegas PD get there. They take him in. They get him down to the station. Everybody's like telling different stories, but he's telling the truth. Like, he's telling them a straight story. Like, yeah, like, he was high, drunk, he was doing this, he was trying to sell some weed, he shot the dude was trying to rob him, but he shot the dude. The police was like, oh, like, since everybody was telling different stories, they didn't believe him at first, because they're like, oh, like, everybody's telling different stories. So he's like, trying to get everybody like, hey, I'm telling them the full truth, don't worry about it, like, trust me. So what the police ended up finding out, or how it was self-defense, was because they couldn't see the gun because the guy was laying on it. So when he got shot in the chest, he fell forward, because remember I told you at the beginning of the story, he pulled the gun out, he had it to his face, he didn't realize that he had a gun went off, he falls, he fell on the gun. Police didn't find a gun until later, and then when they found out that part, they was like, okay, you know what, the same similar situation happened to another person who was selling weed. Somebody tried to rob him, and the person ended up defending themselves and killing the guy that was trying to rob him. It happens in Vegas, it happens a lot of places. Be aware, be safe, don't do business at night if you ain't about that life. I'm not saying he wasn't, I'm just saying, you gotta move smarter, be safer. You guys can see more of that story online. Like I said, type in Ben J New Boys interview, and yeah, you'll get his full version of it. I feel like it was good for him to make it to Crime and Rhyme, because everybody is doing the jerk online like that now, but they don't really probably even remember these guys or know these guys, the newer generation, things like that. But me knowing certain people in music, things like that, I'm like, all right, you know what, I'm putting this on the podcast because I found out about it like not too long ago, and I thought it was a really interesting, dope story. So you can check that out. You can check that out on YouTube, on the Crime and Rhyme podcast, or his interview. All right, now moving on, we got rapper G-Dep from Bad Boy. You heard me. G-Dep made a song called Special Delivery. He was one of Diddy's top artists, you feel me, at one point making the song Special Delivery. G-Dep, alright, now this story crazy, y'all. G-Dep, Travell Coleman, that's his real government name. G-Dep stands for Ghetto Dependent. G-Dep, known to me for his song Special Delivery, where they was harlem shaking their ass off in the video. Diddy's Bad Boy label, G-Dep dropped out of college at 18 to pursue his music career in 1993. At the age of 19, G-Dep was on a bike looking for someone to rob. When he found someone to rob, he approached the victim and attempted to rob him. The victim attempted to fight back by grabbing a loaded gun, which when he did, G-Dep got it free, and the gun went off and was fired 2 more times, making it a total of 3 shots. The next day, the police asked G-Dep, while he was out in the neighborhood, does he know anything about a shooting? So he was like, oh, it's just a robbery shooting, like, dude survived. That's what he kind of thought mentally in his head. So he kept pushing. Pursued his music career. He was discovered by Diddy a little bit after that. But his drug consumption to cover up his pain got in the way. Eventually led him to confess to police years later. High with the substance PCP, G-Dep had found out that the guy that he thought he robbed, he actually killed him. So he was signed to Bad Boy, knowing this knowledge that he had murdered somebody. He started doing drugs to cover up, just mask what he was hiding. That shit got in the way. He ended up being dropped off the label. Almost damn near like 18, 19 years later, after his success, he went to a police officer and he tried to confess to the murder. Police didn't believe him. Probably because he was high, probably because he just looked weird, probably just because the police officer was having a long ass day and was like, man, New York niggas be talking crazy all day, so fuck it, I don't believe it, I ain't got time for this shit, I gotta go get some donuts or whatever the fuck they be eating. Other than that, I don't know if it's like months or weeks later, but he goes into the police station high once again, confesses to this murder, gets taken more seriously this time. The police take him into an interrogation room, talk to him, he explains. They like, man, this story like crazy as fuck, it's coming out the blue, like why are you confessing to this? This murder happened 18, 19 years ago. Police go back and they find out that yeah, this is an unsolved murder, the details match up. This guy G-Dip actually like has the details and he's confessed to it, so he's under arrest for murder. I believe it was second degree because it wasn't planned, but he has time in prison. I don't know if it's life or 25 or something like that, but yeah, man, like that shit was eating at his conscience. You know, his drug habits was probably getting to him. He probably got to a point where he was like, you know what, the drugs is not enough. I can't keep doing this. And the only way to like, you know, cleanse his soul was like tell the truth about it and pay his debt to society. And yeah, he's in jail to this day. But I seen interviews. He said he feels like he's in the right place, and you know, he's interviewed by MSNBC, and you know, they was like, why did you confess? You didn't have to confess, and things like that. But you know, from the outside looking at, everybody be like, yeah, you didn't have to confess because now you're in jail. But I mean, you know, some people gotta clear their conscience, some people don't. You know, this is what he did. Go listen to his music. Go check out the interviews. You know, check out more details of this story. Rapper G-Dep of the Bad Boy label. My name is Ron Rico Slaps. This has been an episode of Crime and Rhyme. You could send your comments in to Crime and Rhyme Podcast at gmail.com. You can listen to this on Patreon, Crime and Rhyme Podcast, my YouTube channel, where you can see the live video episode of me doing a terrible fucking job of filming myself and podcasting myself at the same time. Crime and Rhyme Podcast, youtube.com. Also on TikTok, you can follow me, Crime and Rhyme Podcast. I have clips of future episodes, outtakes, possibly bloopers, shit that I put out, shit that I was doing in the studio while I was working on this podcast. I appreciate y'all for sitting here, either listening or watching or spending time with your boy. I'm Ron Rico Slaps. This is Crime and Rhyme Podcast, episode motherfucking 1, and more to come. Tap in, tune in, have fun, go done.